So today we'll read verse 18. The next Bodhichitta should be understood as a vehicle or a yana. And then mind generation is similar like a reservoir, or similar like an all-pleasing sound. It is similar like the continuum of great water body. So that means a Bodhichitta which possesses calm abiding and special insight is really like a mount. Mount means really like a horse, a tamed mount. Because if you ride on a good, tamed, disciplined horse or mount, then that vehicle will take you to your desired place. So similarly, when you have these twin qualities of calm abiding and special insight, then you will not fall into the two extremes, the extreme of cyclic existence and extreme of nirvana, and thus you will be taken to the city of liberation, city of nirvana. And my generation is similar. The next one is like compared to a reservoir. So that means possessing a bodhicitta which possesses retention and confidence is really like a reservoir which holds the previous water, and also it can collect new water. That's the job of a reservoir. So similarly, when you have this retention, in Sanskrit it is called dharani, which means when you have this power of retention, not to forget what you've heard before, and then you also have this confidence, then you are able to cultivate those teachings which you have not heard before. The one that you have heard before, you will not forget because you have this powerful retention. Second, because you have confidence, you are able to also cultivate those dharmas which you have not heard before. And then similar like an all-pleasing sound. That means with the next bodhicitta, which possesses the explanation of the four summaries of the dharma. Okay, normally we call it four seals. So if you have these four seals, and then that would produce joy in the mind of the listener. So that's why it is called pleasing sound. It's really like hearing a good news, because for those who desire liberation, then it is through this four summaries or four seals of the Dharma teaching, the very pleasant or good news of the method to achieve liberation is being explained. The next is similar like the continuum of a great water body. That means when you possess this path, almost like the only path, sole path, that then without making much effort, you will be able to develop this primordial, non-conceptual primordial wisdom without having to make much effort. Just like a great body of water can flow without much obstruction. Okay. And now this is called the soul path, because those who had reached this spiritual ground, then they will focus continuously towards one's benefit and benefit of other sentient beings without effort. Okay. Then generation of mind, the next verse number 19, generation of mind by bodhisattvas is shown like a cloud, because they are rich in qualities with delight in mind, and correctly generates it. So that means because of this 22 reasons, and with these reasons, when you cultivate bodhicitta, then you possess these 22 qualities, and thus you become rich, because they are rich in qualities. Because you're rich in qualities, which rich in qualities means that you will possess many qualities, and because of possession of these many qualities, your mind will be filled with joy and delight, with delight in mind correctly generated. So there's the meaning. Generation of mind by bodhisattva is shown like a cloud. Okay, shown like a cloud. Bodhichitta, then generation of mind by Bodhisattva is shown like a cloud. So that means when these Bodhisattvas with great skill cultivate Bodhicitta, then it's really like a cloud from which comes rain, which is good for the crop. So therefore, generation of mind of Bodhisattva is really like the method to enter into the Tushita or joyous land and give Dharma teachings and continue to bring temporary benefit and long-term happiness to all sentient beings. Okay, so there's the meaning. Because they are rich in qualities with delight in mind, correctly generated. Verse number 20. Verse number 20. From henceforth, it speaks about the disadvantage of not cultivating bodhicitta and the advantages of cultivating bodhicitta. So verse 20 is talking about the disadvantage of not cultivating bodhicitta. So that means individuals who abandon the most proper generation of mind, the thinking of for others, finding its means, the meaning of great thought and seeing the supreme suchness, and by abandoning that will go into peace. So that means individuals who abandon the most proper. That means those who possess wisdom and also great compassion, it's very proper to cultivate bodhicitta. But those individuals who abandon this proper generation of the mind, then because of this abandonment, in terms of thinking, you are also abandoning the practice of the four immeasurable qualities, which is for the benefit of other sentient beings. The thinking of others, you are abandoning individuals who abandon the most proper generation of mind, they abandon the thinking for others. That means thinking to benefit others. Okay? And likewise, they are also abandoning, finding it is means they are also abandoning the means to achieve that peace through the practice of 4 ways of gathering disciples and so forth. And because of this, the meaning of great thought. That means one, in terms of actual application, the method and means to benefit others is the practice of 4 ways of gathering others. And when you do such a practice, you get tremendous happiness and peace. So you abandon that also. And the Mahayana teachings have great thoughts. And once you study those thoughts, you will also be able to develop this bliss of realizing the meaning of great thought. That's the meaning. Okay? So that also you are abandoning. And through that, there is also possibility to realize the supreme dharma, which means suchness. That is to see the suchness of all phenomena, and from which you derive much bliss, much benefit. So that is also abandoned. The meaning of great thought and seeing the supreme suchness. And because you abandon all this, because you are abandoning all this, therefore, you will experience many sufferings. And because of that, even if you make effort in the path, you will only go into peace, means you will only achieve the peace of Sarvakas and Patyeka Buddhas. You will not be able to achieve the Mahayana liberation. So you will fall into one-sided peace. So there's the meaning. Okay. Second, the benefit of cultivation of bodhicitta. The intelligent, having cultivated the supreme mind, forthwith the mind is properly restrained from committing infinite misdeeds. Due to twin increase, there will be constant virtue. The compassionate one will be happy, both by happiness and suffering. So that means when you cultivate bodhicitta, then number one, you will be free from fear of suffering, of falling into negative state of existence. And you also achieve a state where you will not accumulate the causes of committing negative deeds. Now here, if a question is raised by saying that even in the case that after having cultivated bodhicitta, so to explain this a little bit further, as I already mentioned, the fruit is that when you cultivate bodhicitta, you will not have fear of falling into negative state of existence or suffering. And you also restrain committing the causes of negative deeds. So this is a kind of summary explanation. Now, this summary explanation is necessary because there are people who might ask a question by saying that even if you have cultivated bodhicitta, there is a possibility to fall into negative state of existence. So therefore, there will be fear. And because of this, it is possible that you enter into the path of the Sarvakas and Pratika Buddhas and not go into the path of Mahayana. So this is answered by saying, the intelligent having cultivated the supreme mind. Now intelligent means the intelligent bodhisattvas. Having cultivated the supreme mind means having cultivated the bodhicitta in general, especially the ultimate bodhicitta. Forthwith, as soon as they cultivate that ultimate bodhicitta, immediately the mind is properly restrained from committing infinite misdeeds. That means whether it's physical, verbal, or mental, you have complete restraint over the body, speech, and mind, and thus you have obtained that capacity to restrain it, and therefore you do not commit any negative deed, and therefore it is not possible to fall into negative state of existence because of negative deeds. So therefore there is no need to have fear of falling into negative state of existence. That's one thing. The mind is properly restrained from committing infinite deeds. That's one thing. Then in addition to that, due to twin increase means on the one hand, the bodhisattva's tremendous accumulation of virtue, and in addition to that, there is a development of compassion. So these two, your virtuous qualities and compassion, will increase. Okay, so therefore there will be constant virtue, positive deeds in your mind. Therefore your mind is filled with happiness. So this is a very interesting point, because we do not want suffering on unpleasant experience, but we do get a lot of suffering and unpleasant experience as a result of harming others, as a result of negative deeds. But from your side, if you restrain from committing negative deeds towards other sentient beings, and in addition to that, you engage in committing positive deeds, then your mind will be instilled with happiness all the time. Okay, this is a very important thing. So that is why it is important from one's own side to cultivate this positive mental attitude. Okay. The compassionate one will be happy both by happiness and suffering. So this is what we need. Okay. The compassionate one, the compassionate bodhisattva, not only they will be happy when there is no suffering or don't see the suffering of other people, but they will also be very happy when they see the sufferings of other sentient beings. Okay, that is not to say that it's good that they suffer, but he sees this wonderful opportunity to help others, right? This is very important because normally, in the case of ordinary human life, if you show some concern and ask people, how are you? May I help you? Things like that. Normally, you will find that you are asking these questions to people who are already good and well. You're just asking. If somebody is really suffering and a big problem, you will not ask this question. You will not even be nearby those people, unfortunately. There's the case, right? There's the case. So therefore, the Bodhisattvas really feel concerned towards sufferings of other sentient beings. So whenever they see sufferings of others, they feel happy because they now see an opportunity to purify one's negative deeds and also remove the sufferings of other sentient beings. So to summarize, what these lines are saying is the Bodhisattvas never get discouraged in helping others. Just like you never get discouraged by working hard for your food, for your clothing, and things like that, right? So it's again a mental attitude, you see, right? And Bodhisattva, it is said, just like a swan, which is scorched by heat of the sun, without hesitation will jump into the pool or into the cool water. So similarly, the Bodhisattvas, without hesitation, whenever there is an opportunity, they will jump into helping others. There's nothing better than doing that for these Bodhisattvas, okay? Next, when for others one does regard one's body and life and welcome great tiredness, such a person, when harmed by others, how can they engage in performing bad actions? Now, this is said because again, a question may be asked by saying that even if one has cultivated the ultimate bodhicitta, this is not a guarantee that such a bodhisattva will not engage in negative deeds, because there are people who will harm you. And when they harm you, you will in retaliation also harm others. So this is possible. Or isn't this possible? So if such a question is asked, then this is answered by saying that once you have cultivated this ultimate bodhicitta, when for others, one does regard one's body, that means once you have cultivated this bodhicitta, then your whole existence is for others. Your body is for others. When for others one does regard one's body, life and welcome great tiredness. So one does not care much about one's body and even one's life when it comes to helping others. Okay? Does not regard, it is not does regard, it does not. When for others one does not regard one's body and life and welcomes great tiredness. So that means even if one has to sacrifice one's body, one's life, without paying attention to that, one will welcome great tiredness means one will welcome sufferings. Even if you have to sacrifice your body, sacrifice your life, you will still welcome those sufferings. Okay? So such a bodhisattva, such a person means such a bodhisattva. How can such a bodhisattva, when harmed by others, how can they engage in performing bad actions? Just like because you love yourself, generally speaking, how can you think about harming yourself? So similarly, you regard others as the most important thing. Harming others is similar to harming yourself. So they have made this commitment and also achieved quite high realization. So it is not possible that they would harm others. Verse 23, that one having realized all phenomena like an illusion and taking birth like walking into a garden, this one, this Bodhisattva, both during flourishing and also during downfall, will not be scared by afflictive motions and sufferings. Now, another question is asked by saying that such a Bodhisattva may still have fear of committing some negative deeds. This is answered by saying that in other words, so this verse is basically saying that number one, such a Bodhisattva will have no fear of committing faults, and such a Bodhisattva also possesses great qualities. Now, in the case of the first, having no fear of committing faults, a question, doubt is raised by saying that, okay, it is true that such a Bodhisattva will not harm others. But at the same time, it is possible that when the Bodhisattva flourishes, okay, he might get puffed up, he might get arrogant. Or when there is a downfall, then there will be suffering. And because of this suffering, they might give up cultivation of Bodhichitta. So this is a doubt that is being asked, okay? So this is answered by saying, such a Bodhisattva, even in terms of flourishing, that one having realized all phenomena like an illusion and taking birth like walking into a garden, such a Bodhisattva, both during the time when there is a prosperity and flourishing, and also there is a downfall and problem, that Bodhisattva's mind will not be daunted, discouraged, okay? Because because when that Bodhisattva is flourishing, even those days, he would not forget seeing all phenomena, all prosperity, all flourishing as false, even though they appear as having independent inherent existence, but in reality, there's no such existence. Therefore, they see it as like an illusion. Okay? So therefore, when during the time of flourishing, the Bodhisattva will not be puffed up by arrogance, by afflictive emotions, and thus the Bodhisattva will have no fear of forgetting cultivation of Bodhicitta. And on contrarily, if that Bodhisattva loses all its wealth or flourishing and starts downfall, even at the cost of one's life, even such a difficult time, because of the power of having done positive deeds, they would happily embrace it to die for the benefit of others, and to die and go into the next world will be for them like entering a beautiful garden with a lot of flowers. Because when you go into a garden, then you can sing and dance, and you celebrate, enjoy. So therefore, during time of downfall also, the Bodhisattva will have no fear of such sufferings. A similar line is explained in 37 Bodhisattva practices, okay? So for us, what this line is saying is that if you are very happy, don't get too excited. Suffering is waiting. If you have a lot of suffering, don't get too discouraged. Happiness is also waiting, okay? Things change, okay? And then much is dependent upon how you see things. So in other words, the Bodhisattva will not stop its cultivation of Bodhicitta, both in the times of flourishing and also in the times of downfall. Then again, another question is asked by saying that there may be peace or bliss higher than the peace and bliss enjoyed by the Bodhisattva. If such a thing is there, then the Bodhisattva might develop attachment to those higher bliss, and because of that, they might give up Bodhichitta. Okay, so this is answered in the next verse. One's own quality, joy in benefiting others, intentionally taking birth, and miraculous emanations are like ornament, feast, supreme place, and delight in the play are not there in others who are not embodiment of compassion. So that means one's own quality. That means one has this ornament of one's having one's own quality, and they also have this joy of benefiting others. Number one, you have your quality as an ornament. Number two, you have this joy of sharing the feast of benefiting others. Okay, and then for the benefit of others, you intentionally take birth, intentionally taking birth. And because of that, because you intentionally take birth, it's really like, as we explained in the preceding words, it's like entering into a beautiful garden. And then also you possess the capacity to perform miraculous emanations. Emanations means you can travel into different places, make offerings to the Buddhas, and make the mind of other sentient beings mature, and therefore you perform many miracles, and you play and enjoy that. So such a compassionate bodhicitta, it's only such a bodhisattva who is able to do that. So therefore they will not develop attachment to some other higher pleasure. Okay. Like ornament, feast, supreme place, and delight in the play are not there in others who are not embodiment of compassion. So such the bodhisattva already has so much joy and happiness. So there is no reason that they will hanker after some other higher levels of joy. Okay. Now the next point is talking about how to remove certain obstructions for such cultivation of bodhicitta. This embodiment of compassion, striving for others, when regard even the hell without respite as delightful, how such a thing be scared by befalling of sufferings, because in the existence it is the basis of others. Okay. So that means first is refuting having fear of suffering to such bodhisattvas. So this has to be proved. How can you prove that such a bodhisattva has no fear? This is proved by saying that the embodiment of the bodhisattvas who are embodiment of compassion, okay, who are embodiment of compassion, who always strive to benefit others, this embodiment of compassion, the bodhisattvas who are always striving for others, when, because of this compassion in them, when they see that what they do becomes beneficial to others, then they would regard even the hell, hell, the worst kind of hell without respite. Even if they have to go to the hell without respite, they will find it as delightful. So again, in our ordinary case also, if you are somebody who is really committed to others, you will be ready to take upon yourself some difficult task. And you will do that happily, just as you would do it for your family. Now, when such sense of responsibility in Bodhichitta is not there, then you would immediately, say, why should I do it? Why should I do such a difficult job? Why not others, right? So therefore, I have always been telling people that when it comes to helping others, it should be like you're taking your lunch, dinner, and breakfast. When you take your lunch, you would never say that why should I take my lunch because others are not taking. Whether others are eating lunch or not, you will definitely eat lunch. So likewise, when it comes to helping others, you should not see whether others are helping them or not. Okay, you should just plunge into it, even if it is a difficult task. So regard even the hell without respite as delightful. So this being the case, how such a bodhisattva be scared or afraid of falling of suffering, right? The possibilities right now we might feel how this is very difficult, but the possibility is shown by if you watch a mother who sees her little boy or girl falling into a pit of fire, she's not bodhisattva. But because of being mother, because of her love, she would not hesitate jumping into that pit of fire to save the life of her children. So this shows the possibility. Even in the ordinary person, we have such love. Now, if this love is further strengthened, developed, and refined, like in the case of a bodhisattva, then you would go into those difficult places willingly. This reminded me the story of one Tibetan monk who, not long after we have come into exile, one day he went to see His Holiness, and His Holiness asked him what kind of work you want to do. He said, His Holiness, please send me anywhere you want, especially send me to a place where nobody is willing to go. So such is the commitment. Such is the commitment. So how such a being be scared by befalling of sufferings? Because in the existence, it is the basis for others. Because his very existence is a compassionate existence. And your very existence is an existence to benefit others. Therefore, it is not possible to have fear when it comes to helping others or encountering sufferings. Now, next verse. The master who always maintained great compassion and who is mentally afflicted by others' sufferings, when one is close to others' work, it is a shame if he has to be told to do so by others. So that means this is a kind of digression from the previous explanation of Bodhisattva striving for others. Because here a question can be asked by saying that when it comes to helping others, isn't it necessary to request that person to help, to request this person to do certain things? Normally, in our ordinary case, you have to request people to help, right? So when this question is asked, then this is answered by saying, in the case of bodhisattvas, the bodhisattva is a master of compassion, is an embodiment of compassion, who always maintained great compassion for others. Now, and who is mentally afflicted by other sufferings. That means he always cared about sufferings of others. On the one hand, he always meditated on compassion. On the other, he also always showed concern towards sufferings of others. It's not just 1 day or 2 days, but always. Okay. Now, for such a bodhisattva who has compassion, who always shows his concern for others' sufferings, for such a bodhisattva, when one is close to others' work, that means when one near oneself, when there is an opportunity to work for others, to do a work for others, then without having to ask, please do it, the bodhisattva will naturally, willingly do it. Contrarily, if there is a case where you have to request the bodhisattva, please help us, then this is a shame. There's the meaning. It's a shame if he has to be told by others to work for others, because his very existence is for others. So there's the meaning. Verse 27. One who carry the great burden of sentient beings on their head, it doesn't look beautiful for such supreme bodhisattvas to walk slowly, since oneself and multifarious others are totally bound by the bondage. It is proper to persevere 100 times more. Now this verse is being said because again a question might arise in our mind by saying, yes, these bodhisattvas are great, but sometimes they may also be lazy, and because of them they might give up doing things for others. But this is answered by saying, no, this is not possible, because such bodhisattvas have made a promise to help all sentient beings achieve Buddhahood, and thus they have carried their burden, their responsibility on their head. Okay? The one having realized, one who carry the great burden of sentient beings on their head. Now, as we read in the preceding verse, this is also quite similar. One who carries the great burden of the sentient beings on their head as their regular duty, it doesn't look beautiful for such supreme bodhisattvas to walk slowly. That means to be lazy and to go around slowly, because there's so much suffering. So you should always be working for the benefit of other sentient beings. It doesn't look nice if you're like relaxing or walking slowly, carelessly. It doesn't look nice. There's the meaning. It doesn't look beautiful for such supreme bodhisattvas to walk slowly. Because since oneself and multifarious other sentient beings are totally bound by the bondage of having committed heinous negative deeds, bondage due to having excessive afflictive emotions, and so forth. So when you are obscured by such negative deeds, okay, now for example, in our case, not only we have negative emotions, but we have very intense negative emotions. These negative emotions are with us for a long time. So that is the afflictive obscuration. Okay. So in this way, when sentient beings are bound by these obscurations, on the one hand, on the other, you are following the path of the Bodhisattva. So therefore, you must strive 100 times more than the hard work done by Sarvakas and Patika Buddhas. It is proper to persevere 100 times more, means more than ordinary people, much more than ordinary people, much more than the Sarvakas and Patika Buddhas. Because in the case of Sarvakas and Patika Buddhas, it's just for them. Now here you have taken this responsibility to help all other sentient beings. So there is a lot of need and demand. Okay. That's it. That completes verse number 5, verse on Bodhichitta. Okay.
So, Geshe-la, we just stop here, right? In the explanation of the Mahayana Sutra Alamkara. But
yeah, you can have some questions. Yeah.
Okay. While I'm waiting for the questions to come, I have some questions that were sent to us. I'll start with this one. They say that Geshe Langri Tanpa almost never smiled, only 2 or 3 times in his life, because he deeply understood the suffering nature of samsara. Was he right? Maybe should we also stop smiling, as at this very moment somebody is being killed and suffering greatly? What would you say about it, Geshe-la?
There is no one course, no one line of thinking or one course of action. For certain occasions, it's better to smile. For certain occasions, it is better to be a little bit more serious. Right? There are many bodhisattvas or great teachers who keep on smiling, laughing, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, always smiling, laughing, which is also very uplifting for many people. Okay? Now people are already overburdened, have a lot of suffering, then look around, nobody is smiling, nobody is laughing, everybody discouraged. Even the great teachers are not laughing, discouraged. It may be, in such a state, it may be a little bit like dampening the spirit. Okay. Then on other occasions, like Langri Thangpa, just to show the seriousness of the need to be serious with one's practice and the need to contemplate on the sufferings of others, right? Then, there's not much reason to be very joyful and very cheerful. So that's one way of looking. But to make a long story short, what is important is whether you are smiling or not. That's not important. What is important is that your mind should be able to see the reality as it is. Okay, then you should, because of sufferings of others, it should move you, and you should be ready to do anything that is useful, uplifting, beneficial. That's important. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. I can see that Jacqueline has a question. Jacqueline, please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that a Bodhisattva, if he saw that he was benefiting others, he would happily go to hell to help. But say like forgiving, like if I give to someone and then they're very happy and I see that it really helped them, then I get happy too. But then if I just give anonymously, or give to someone who doesn't show any gratitude, it's harder for me to get excited about giving. Do you have any recommendations to make giving in those circumstances happier?
Again, both are, I would say both are correct. Okay. Many practitioners, they do that. I also sometimes try to give things, without letting the receiver know that the gift is from me.
Yeah.
So the good thing with that is that you give, and then you have no idea where it went. You only know that somebody got benefited, and because you don't know this person directly, so therefore next time you meet this person, you don't expect any thank you or submissiveness from that person. You see, unfortunately, sometimes when you give something directly to some other person, then naturally this person also then becomes a kind of very loyal or submissive to you, so you don't want you don't want that. So therefore you give it anonymously. That's one thing. But when you don't have that hankering, that expectation from other person, then simply, just like mother or father giving gifts to the children, and then when children's happy, they are simply happy. They may not be expecting anything from the children. Okay, so that way of giving is also good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. The next question is from Irina. She asks, why was Tonglen a secret practice? It is a practice of a special depth, right? So why wasn't it passed to all the Buddhists?
No, in order to do such practices, you need to have some foundation. Okay, so these days, of course, all the teachers are giving this practice, openly to everybody. It's not a tantric practice, okay? So that way it is okay to give that practice. But in Tibet, there is a tradition, kind of tradition, or at least there is an attempt to first teach the Lamrim, the general, process of the path. And then when you have trained your mind a little bit, then you're encouraged to do this practice of Tonglen, okay? So this is, I think, called a secret practice because you do this visualization of receiving all the sufferings upon yourself and giving all the good things that you have to others. Okay. Now, if this is not explained properly, then you may be somebody who already have a lot of suffering. In addition to that, through Tonglen practice, if you heap upon yourself the sufferings of others also, then you may get completely overwhelmed. You see. So therefore, the masters say that when you receive the sufferings of other people, it is not just receiving all these sufferings and then heap it upon yourself. It simply means you imagine they're taking their sufferings and then putting it on your self-cherishing attitude. Okay, what you want to destroy is self-cherishing attitude, not yourself. Okay, so therefore, unless, like in the tantric practice also, this is called secret because certain process of practice, if not explained properly, there will be risk.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. I would like to read the next question. It's about the concepts like bliss, clarity, and emptiness. How do these concepts, bliss, clarity, and emptiness, relate to our Buddha nature? What are they? Are they characteristics or descriptions of the Buddha nature? And what do they each mean individually?
Buddha nature basically means your mind's ultimate nature, the mind having no inherent existence, okay, the emptiness nature of the mind. Now that subtle emptiness nature of mind should be realized by a mind which is clear. So that's why we talk about clarity of the mind. And that clarity, development of that clarity is possible, especially in the Tantra practice, this is very much taught by saying that you develop this bliss. When your mind is full of delight and joy and bliss, there will be more clarity. Okay, you cannot have clarity when your mind is afflicted and suffering. So therefore, it is a clear, blissful mind which is cultivated and then used to realize and see that ultimate nature of the mind. Okay.
Geshe-la, and what about this part of the question? Are those bliss, clarity, and emptiness characteristics or descriptions of the Buddha nature?
Characteristics of the Buddha nature. Buddha nature, as I said, basically refers to the emptiness nature of the mind. The emptiness itself is an objective, is an object, not a subjective mind. So we cannot call it blissful. You can call it blissful when you involve the clear light mind. When that clear light mind sees that ultimate nature, then you have this blissful experience.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. The next question is from Roman. He asks, how can we help people who lost their relatives and close ones not to lose compassion towards those who actually were cause of the death of these people, how to help them survive this loss of their close ones?
Now, one, it's not easy to say, but for those who really have experienced that, it is not easy to explain it. But if they are willing to listen, then you can tell them, number one, the so-called relatives were not your relatives when you were born, not necessary. It may be your husband or wife, which you met later on. It may be the child which was born later. Okay, so you did not come into this world with relatives and friends. So you just met them. And anything that we meet has to go away by whatever means. It may be, unfortunately, a tragedy which you did not expect, or it may be through death and so forth, natural death and so forth. So whatever comes together has to go. Okay, if that person did not go this time, there will be some other occasions when you will be you will be the one to go, or this person will be the one to go. So sooner or later, whatever comes together has to go. Number one. Number two, if by being sad, okay, by feeling sad and by through that way, or afflicting sufferings upon yourself through that way, if that person who already died is going to come back, then it's okay that we should feel sad as long as possible. But that person is dead already. So you're simply feeling sad is not the solution. So instead of doing that, you should think about many others who are still alive and who need friendship, who need support. Then also those people who you lost, you have lost their body. As I already explained, death means death of the body. Death that we ordinarily understand is the death of the body. There is no death to the mind. So these people who are your near ones and dear ones, yes, they lost their body, but their mind cannot be destroyed even by nuclear bombs. That is what Buddhists believe. Okay, so therefore, develop good thoughts. You may call it prayer or whatever about them, and do something in the remaining of your life in their name that is beneficial to others. Like, of course, it depends on your situation. Some people just plant a really nice shady tree, which will live for a long, long time and which gives shade for many people. One way of remembering it, that tree not only gives shade, it might also flower, produce fruit, benefiting many others. That's one way. Or sponsor a child who has lost both the parents and things like that. So there are many ways of doing it. Okay, it's not easy, as I said. When you actually experience, it is not easy. So that much at least you can think. But now the difficult part is how to forgive those who brought such tremendous suffering upon yourself, especially when it is not called for. Okay, when you don't deserve it, somebody does that when you don't deserve such suffering. What would you do? Now there are many ways of thinking. One is the person who is inflicting such suffering are also crazy. They are mad. Okay, so a mad person can do anything. So normally on the ordinary street, if a mad person is doing something, we would not pay much attention, saying that this is madness. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you should not protect your life. Okay, you protect your life, do everything that protect your family, your country, whatever, right? Okay, so in other words, do those things which in that given situation is beneficial and helpful, however difficult it is. Okay, but if you get discouraged and feel sad, that is what the enemy wants. So don't do those things which your enemy wants. Let me give you one more example, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Okay, the Chinese government and the leaders always criticizing His Holiness by saying he's counter-revolutionary, he's, wolf in the sheep's cloth and things like that, okay? And then His Holiness always says that I always hear a lot of, problems, sufferings of those Tibetans who came from Tibet, who suffered much in Tibet, right? So His Holiness always has to listen to these people who will be crying before him, tell their woeful stories and things like that. Then His Holiness always says, I try to encourage them, do everything that is possible. And having done one's job to the best ability, then I sleep peacefully. That actually bothers the enemy. Because they will then start thinking, how come that we have been, bringing all this death and destruction, but this man is still happy and smiling and has so many friends all over the world. Instead, if the victim felt discouraged and takes, a sleeping pill and don't take proper food and suffer from cancer and things like that, then the enemy will be very happy. So there are things like that. I mean, as I said, it's not so easy for the one who has suffered to do this, but that's the only way. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. And Roman just wrote, thank you very much, dear teacher, because many of us now have to help people who lost their close ones at the military conflict. And it is very difficult for us to kind of live through this suffering with them. So thank you very much for your wise advice. And we just move to the next question, which came from, just a moment, I'll see the name, from Boris. So he asks, how do we describe an external object of designation in Prasangika Madhyamaka? If you look directly, you can see the flame. But if you look under the microscope, you won't see the flame or the fire, but you will see the chemical reaction. So does it mean that the original object is the same, or these are two different objects, the flame or the fire and the chemical reaction?
That I don't know. It's a difficult question, but generally saying, the Prasangika Madhyamika saying is, it's difficult to say who is right. Like this, there is this famous debate in Prasangika Madhyamika of glass of water. When seen by a human being, he sees it water. When this is seen by celestial beings or gods, they see it as a nectar. When this is seen by, hungry ghost, he sees it glass full of pus and blood. So who is right? Okay. So depending upon the karma of sentient beings, we do see different things. So in their perspective, conventional level, everybody is right in that sense. Right? So we don't have to take this to the level of how this glass of water is seen by different sentient beings, but even in our ordinary level, I see one person as something very nice, very interesting. Another person says this person is horrible, ugly, and things like that. You see. So this is how you see things. Even when you're sitting on the sitting in front of a same table, depending from which direction of the table you are seeing the table, there will be differences due to how the light falls or how much you press your hand against the table. So depending upon many things, you have different perceptions. Okay. So therefore, we cannot really say that who is right or who is wrong. but in everybody's perspective. So the general criteria is that in the common parlance, in the case of something seen by the eye should not be defective in the ordinary way. And then in addition to that, depending upon how it is influenced your mind, you see different things, but that should be seen as correct to everybody's perspective. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. If we can continue, we still have some questions. I will read the question that was sent to us before. It says, for someone who is a serious and profound practitioner, desiring to attain a way, Buddhahood, it is very useful and even necessary to habituate his or her mind to see the root guru as a Buddha, right? But what about the other teachers we meet along the way? Often we don't have the opportunity to know them well enough to decide that we can entrust ourselves to them as our good friends.
Now, this is important question, but even forget about other gurus. Even the so-called your root guru. Root guru is somebody who is kind to you in three ways, who has given you tantric empowerment, and who has explained to you the tantric texts, and who has given you blessing, things like that. So certain, a special relationship must be there. So therefore, generally speaking, before you accept somebody as your root guru or guru, you must examine carefully. Don't hurriedly run after a guru because of his name and fame and so forth. Just like marriage, if you hurriedly marry somebody because of the physical, appearance and the facial look and things so forth, then very soon you realize that person is not what you thought, and then you get divorced. So likewise, this is more important than ordinary marriage. Ordinary marriage is maybe for one life, but your relationship with the guru is supposed to be for many lives purpose. So therefore, don't jump. You can listen to teachings, talks, just like listening to talks. You can listen to the teachings, the talks of. Don't receive any tantric initiation, but apart from that, you can listen to talks just as you can listen to talks given by men, women, whoever. So similarly, you can listen to talks and things like that. But don't just run after them without analyzing them. Then you might land into a big problem, because this unfortunately, number one, you need to be realistic. You need to see these so-called gurus or geshes or lamas, whoever, sadhus, whoever, they're also ordinary people, okay? They're also ordinary people. But the only demarcation is they are supposed to have said that they will practice. Supposed to have said, okay, they have different cloth you can buy from the market. Shaving the head is very easy, 10 minutes job. So these are like, don't get carried away by their external look, okay? So take time, listen to others also. Then with long time, if you find that so-called guru, at least few things, there are many qualities needed, but at least he should be compassionate. He should really be compassionate. Because that so-called guru is really compassionate, there will be no chance or very few chances of, exploiting you or mistreating you and things like that. Then, of course, he should have more knowledge than you. Otherwise, he can't teach. He can't be your guru. Okay? And then thirdly, he should also have some, readiness to make some effort to teach you, guide you, things like that. So those things must be there. Some of these basic qualities must be there. Otherwise, there are many cases of people who already have familial problems, especially in the West. There are many people who have problems. Then hoping that their problems will be solved, they go into a center and they are also the so-called guru cheat them, then it's horrible, right? So it's really like medicine becoming poison. So therefore, use your common sense. The Buddha said, self is the protector of the self. No one else can be the protector at the end of the day. But of course, spiritual teacher is important, because even in ordinary life, if you want to learn carpentry, you need to have a teacher to teach you. Even in the areas where you can actually see and do things by yourself, there also you need a teacher. Now, when we talk about attaining nirvana or liberation, many of these unseen qualities, then it's of course important to have some experienced teacher. But experienced teacher, compassionate teacher, qualified teachers are not that easy. So therefore, take time. That's the most important thing. So even in the case of the so-called yoga guru, be very careful, because once you make a connection, then later on, if you backbite and do all these things, that is not good. Okay. But then also, even in the case, if you had taken somebody as your guru by mistake, and then later on, not only you see some problems, because the so-called gurus also, they are ordinary human beings, they will commit this and that problems. Small problems, I think it's tolerable, it's no problem. But if the situation goes into such a state where it is impossible to accept that person as your teacher, you have, at least from my point, you have every right to stop there. Okay? Because sometimes some unqualified teachers, they would say, now you have taken me as your root teacher, guru. So you have to do everything what I say. If you don't do that, you'll go into Vajra hell. This clearly shows the teacher is completely unqualified. Okay, so use your common sense. I had actually personally met people who had experienced such suffering, and they came to me, and I told them, in the initial stage, when you met this guru, if you receive good advice, you benefited, that part you appreciate. That part you appreciate, okay? Good things good, bad things bad. Now the situation is such that you can't continue, you have every right to stop there. So don't make yourself vulnerable. Okay, so that's what I want to say. So then, of course, for others, other teachers, as I said, you can go and listen to them, and that's it. And if the talk is good, say thank you. That's human way. Even somebody gives you a cup of tea, you say thank you, of course. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe. Now we have a question from Snehi. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Tashidele Geshe-la. My question comes from what you said earlier, Geshe-la, about, conventionally, it's hard to say who is right or who is wrong when you're looking at something. And it made me think, in our societies today, there is so much difference in our views. For example, there's a whole group of people who think arranged marriage is good. There's a whole group of people who think arranged marriage is bad. And the same with like abortion or death penalty. How to think about these things?
Now you see, only a few people like Buddha and others had this boldness and capacity, or thereby Martin Luther King and things like that. They had the capacity to come out of those blind, binding social customs. For ordinary people, it is not that easy, right? It's not easy. But not easy doesn't mean that you should not make effort. You should use skillful means, skillful ways, when you really think what you're doing is not good. For example, marriage, Again, arranged marriage may have some good things there, provided if they did not do this arranged marriage with the aim to get more wealth, more money. Unfortunately, in many countries, the primary concern is money. Kitna dahej mil raha hai, kitna paisa aaya iske saath. This is a normal thing. So instead of that, if that arranged marriage is done by properly checking the goodness of that man, women, things like that, then it has some benefit. But again, it's not the parents who are going to marry this woman or marry this boy. It is this boy or girl who is marrying this girl or this boy. It is their life, right? So you cannot just tie your neck to somebody, with whom, whatever be the reason, your mind doesn't like. Okay? So therefore, gradually we should really have the choice. But then when we talk about choice also, you should not just blindly, fall into love somebody and then tie your neck in the name of marriage and things like that. So if you don't like, you're not happy with the arranged marriage, then you should also be very careful. Okay? Because we are all vulnerable, ordinary people. We all have desire. We all have attachment, So we can be duped into a very difficult situation anytime. Now we have, there's no doubt of people who are lured with this, that, and then finally, the girl is made pregnant, and then the boy leaves, So many are there already, you see, so much suffering. So therefore, we should really be very careful, analyze things properly, take time. So that's what I would say. So this is one example. So in general, in all situations, at the end of the day, unless you take care of yourself, nobody will be able to take care of you. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe La. And the next we have a question from Sahili. Please unmute yourself.
Pranam, Geshe-la.
Pranam.
Thank you for giving us teaching. So my question is not regarding the teaching we have just received. My question is when we'll have another online class from you. I mean, how can we get to know? And is there any other classes?
Right now I have classes, but not public. July, August, September, 3 months, I'm teaching translators training, which is just for Tibetans or who speak Tibetan. So that is not suitable to you. And then I have again the Gurukul, which you came before. So I will be teaching 6 days to the Gurukul students or Indian students, which also now you are not, you are an ex-Guru.
I have spoken with them. I can attend. I have already spoken with them. I can attend.
So you come for that. Okay. We are, I'm with them for 1 week. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And any other online classes?
Right now, no.
Okay.
But if something comes up, it will be advertised in our LTWA website. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Geshe La, if we have some more time, I still have maybe a couple of questions.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, right. So again, I'm reading the question that was sent to us. It is said that after attaining the awakening, Shakyamuni Buddha kept silent for a week. We've heard of 2 versions of why or explanations, right? First, no one asked him for a whole week to give the teaching, so he just kept silent. And the second explanation is that the deities immediately asked him to give the teaching, but he just pondered a week on how to do it. What do these 2 versions mean, and which one of them is probably the most realistic one, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know the details. The only thing I know is that he has, after achieving enlightenment, he did not teach for 7 weeks, not 1 week, 7 weeks, I think. And during these 7 weeks, he was first requested by human beings to give the teaching. Then the human beings were joined by celestial beings requesting for the teaching. He did not teach. And then the reason that we say is because when he was requested to teach, he said, I found something that is profound, peaceful, free from fabrication, clear light. To whomever I teach it, nobody will understand it. So let me do my meditation, okay? And we said that the reason for him to say is maybe manifold, but one or two reasons. One reason is that yes, if you want to follow his footpath, follow his teaching, you must be serious. Because the teaching, as he said, is really profound. The teaching on emptiness and things like that, really profound. And even ordinary teachings, to give up, attachment, anger, jealousy, these are not easy for us, right? So unless you be serious, it's not easy to practice it. Okay, so that's one reason. And the second possible reason may be I don't know. Now I forgot the second reason. Anyway, so he was basically saying that he clearly said that what I found is something like a nectar, okay, very special. So if you want to test this nectar, you must prepare your mind. You should be ready to, do the practice. So basically, he was saying that. Okay.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la. And probably the last question will be, Geshe-la, even before the terrible things started to happen in our part of the world, you kept on saying that there are so many lies around us. Advertisement is lying to us. TV is lying to us all the time. They want to sell us something or to promote certain funny ideas or values. In a situation of military conflict, the lies are increasing exponentially. What is the right behavior for the Buddhist in this situation where you don't know whom and what to trust? Please give us your advice.
First is trust yourself. If you can't trust yourself, you can't trust others. You trust yourself and trust those things which you had really witnessed, which you had really experienced. Use your common sense. Whatever be the reason, is it good to continuously bomb somebody or kill somebody? Is it good? Whatever be the reason. Is it good not only for those people, but also for you? Is it good? Right? So I mean, it's difficult to openly come out and cite this side or that side. I know this is not easy. Okay, especially in some dictatorial countries, it's very difficult. But still, you should maintain your sanity. Whatever be the reason, these wars and these killings are totally based on insanity. Insanity and based on division. That my country must win, my people must win, the others are negative, others are bad. Like for example, to be more frank and honest, like what is happening between Russia and Ukraine, it's unfortunate even for me, because both of these people living in this country are very close culturally. I think both are speaking Russian, right? So then now the China and Taiwan relationship, again, more or less same people, you see. On the one hand, you are saying we are same, then you are throwing bombs. I mean, international politics is very complex. I'm not a politician, so there may be, of course, many, claims and counterclaims and things like that. But for an ordinary person, as I said, whatever be the reason, there should be a way, there should be a method to solve these problems, provided if you lessen your ego a little bit, if you really have this courage to sit together and dialogue and solve the problem, I'm sure there will be it's solvable. But if you have too much confidence over your weapons, and if you think that others can be cowed down and bullied by using weapons, this is where we go wrong. And then in the end, neither the enemy nor the one who is bent on destroying, none of them will get benefit in the long run. Right? So this is my small man's thinking. Things are complex, so we have no control. But I think if the leaders really have the courage and less of the ego and a larger, perspective for the benefit of their own country, I think for me, courage is not just, fighting, throwing bombs. There are actually these days you don't need much courage because you push the button and you'll kill so many people. The courage is to sit together with that opposite and talk and find a solution. Okay.